All right. Okay, so today my speech is on the about Panasonic. About it. This blue screen. No, but my I guess you guys know that I'm all about soccer and everything, and I'm really into the World Cup that's coming up around this summer. But the World Cup comes every 4 years. So what happens in 3 years it's not around? I'm here to talk about and tell you about the 3 years you probably don't know about, the FIFA preliminaries, where 204 teams compete to see if they can make it to the top 32. There are 35 North American teams, 10 South American teams, 53 African, 53 Euro, 10 Oceania, and 43 Asian teams that all compete just to see if they could have a chance to be number one. Throughout the 3 years, there are different cups that are played in each continent, each of the 6 continents, just to, for teams to hone their skills and see who can be the best. For example, the United States competes in the Gold Cup about every 2 years. And this last Gold Cup, which was last year, they played Mexico in the final and stupidly played their B team while they were in Mexico City. And they lost 5-0, which is really embarrassing. And the Confederation Cup, which takes each of the champions from each continent and places them in 2 groups of 4, where there's the 6, one from each continent, the previous world champion from the last World Cup, and the hosting nation of the next World Cup. So there's 8 teams that can see who's number one. This last year, the United States again played in this cup. They played Brazil in the final and narrowly lost 3-2 because they gave it up in the end. And so with 204 teams, there are bound to be some mismatches along the way. And the United States in qualifying played a team from Barbados, and they beat them 8-0 in the first game, which is pretty fun game to watch if you are watching the 8-goal game. But along the way, the weaker teams are eliminated very, very quickly. And so in qualifying, each of the teams play approximately 590 games throughout the 3 years that they're qualifying, just to make it to the World Cup, to the top 20, to the top 32. The Euro Cup happens every 4 years, which is also a big deal, and that is actually just as exciting as the World Cup because European teams are very exciting to watch. And some just random stats and facts. Australia, which should be in the Oceania league, or not league, but the group, would move to the Asian group because the teams from the Oceania group are way too easy for them to be playing. They played in 2001 in a qualifying game. They played American Samoa and beat them in the highest margin of victory, 31-0. And this year in qualifying, next slide. These are the teams that qualified for this World Cup this year. All the ones in green are the ones that made it. There are 3 teams that made it from North America, 5 teams from South America, 5 from Africa, 13 from Europe, and 6 from Asia. The New Zealand and Australia both compete in the Asian Cup because it's just too easy in the Oceania League. In qualifying, there were 3,000 247 yellow cards issued for fouls, just random amount of facts, and there was 176 red cards issued. 5,602 players were used in qualification for the World Cup. So each, and you can go to the next one. Those are the just the groups that have been made for this World Cup that's coming in June. These are all the groups, and top one, South. The World Cup is played in South Africa this time around, and I guess that's it.
So Jesse, what did you think?
I thought it was pretty interesting because not many people, like you said, know what happened in the 3 years before the World Cup. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, what did you think of the visuals? How'd you like the introduction? What about the conclusion? Did you think it was well organized? Did he cite his information? Any of those kinds of things?
Maybe you could explain the visuals a little bit more better. For the conclusion, you probably could do like a little bit better job.
All right.
Time on that?
Yes, I've got time. Thank you for checking. All right, Paul, let me start with the opening and the closing. Both of them my two least favorite things. My speech day is, and I guess that's it. So, kick yourself a little bit about that, because I told you not to do that, and you did it anyway.
Yeah.
All right. The strongest thing you've got is, I think you've got a great specific purpose. You've got a good thesis. Here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about what happens between the World Cup, what goes on in creating this. And I think you've got a good idea here, but it badly needs some structuring. I think you start off with the right idea, talking about these cup challenges that go on in between. My first question, though, is, does that mean if you win one of those cup challenges that you've qualified for that final round of 32? Or does it something, because you mentioned at one point, and I know that it can't be per team, but it sounded like when you said it, that they play 590 games between the World Cups. And I'm going, oh, there's no way that a single team is playing 590 games in that 4 years. That's just way too many. So it's got to be all the teams that are going through this process. They play a total of 590 games. We got 590 games. Which ones are the ones that determine who gets into that round of 32? How, is it like in the 2 years between, that you mentioned the European Cup Championship and the Gold Cup, and there was another one that you mentioned. The United States apparently was in 2 of those Cup Championship finals and apparently lost both times. But so, is that good news? Is that bad news? Are we disqualified? How is it that we qualified if we've lost twice in that process? So you've got the right idea there, but it's not complete what the explanation is. I like the visual that you had that showed all the teams that qualified. I thought that was a good graphic. It's easy to see the teams that made it to the World Cup. What you need is some kind of graphic that talks about what the process is. That these games determine this, or that teams that win these championships qualify automatically, or that they get ranked in some particular way. Because an outsider looking at this, I'm not sure I know any more about what goes on except that there are other tournaments that happen between the World Cup. And then that last diagram that you have where you're talking about the groups that they're playing in, well, how were those groups determined? I see the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it's got nothing to do with the continents that you're talking about, the Oceania. Oceania group or the North American, South American, and it didn't make any sense to me.